My topic was the 1974 Bangladesh floods. The flood. So in 1974, the Bangladesh area was hit with unusually heavy rainfall, including monsoons from April to July, causing devastating floods along the Brahmaputra River. The area receives floods on an annual basis, as almost 30% of the land is covered by rivers, which include the Ganges, Brahmaputra, and Meghna rivers. And the country typically uses this water that flows over for their agriculture, which was a big part of their economy. So, causes of the flood. The surrounding land is one of the reasons for the annual flooding in Bangladesh. It's because the Himalayan mountain range is relatively close, and the tectonic uplift of this mountain range causes erosion rates of sediment to increase, making the rivers more susceptible to flooding. Also, the mass deforestation in the Himalayan mountain range contributes to the flooding because it reduces the interception rates, which means shorter lag time and higher peak discharges. And then I have a graph of a map of all the surrounding rivers surrounding Bangladesh. Some more causes would be the Bay of Bengal, which is on the southern coast of the country. This is because it receives lots of cyclones, which contribute to the coastal flooding within the country. Uh, Bangladesh is not a very well developed country at this time, especially when it came to technology. So they weren't really very well prepared for a natural disaster, especially this scale. And finally, melted snow from glaciers and mountain peaks in the Himalayas also runs off and makes its way into the rivers. The effect on land. The floods were detrimental to life in Bangladesh at this time, as they affected almost 80% of the land. The civilians of Bangladesh needed this land in order to make a living and survive because their technology was not as advanced as some of the surrounding countries. And experts also believe that as the climate changes in the future, floods in Bangladesh will only become worse due to cyclonic storm surges and rising sea levels. The famine. The 1974 flood, in particular, was extremely devastating for people living in Bangladesh. This is because it brought a terrible famine to the country. The floods were so severe that they wiped out many of the small river villages that used water for their crops and also wiped out the crops along with it. It was estimated that over 200,000 people died during the monsoons and floods, and thousands of people were forced to go into major cities like Chittagong and Dhaka in search of refuge. But however, these places became very overcrowded very quickly, and the floods had washed away most of the country's food supply. And then I have a graph right here that shows the increase in the average rice yield starting from around 1974 when it was very low due to the famine. Some results of the famine. Famine caused extreme price inflation in the country, but this had already been an issue before the floods had started. This was because Bangladesh had little to no resources left, so it had to rely on other countries to lend them food and other resources. Scholars estimate that almost 1.5 million people died due to starvation and some other diseases such as malaria that were brought from the famine. The damage brought by these floods took years to repair and cost over $5 million at the time, and took over 2 years for the country to recover fully from the devastating floods. How Bangladesh prepares for floods now. Over the years, Bangladesh has become much more prepared for floods of this magnitude. The country now prepares annually for flooding as it comes during their rainy season. Houses and other buildings were raised for protection and to keep necessary items out of the water. They began to also use more effective irrigation systems such as embankment construction, channel improvement by dredging, river training and cutoff, and construction of bypasses or floodways. And as time has gone on and technology in the country became more advanced, they are now able to use floods to their advantage. However, some years, like 1974, bring such bad floods, there's nothing that can be done to prevent mass destruction. And then these were the sources that I used for my research. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed.